Slowly but surely, they're all coming back. Today is an exciting day as I get to cast the very first series that the man right here in the top right-hand corner of Post Youth has played after recently completing his mandatory military service over in South Korea. I feel like I've introduced a lot of videos exactly like that over the last, maybe the last half year or so. There have been a couple at the very least where we once again see the return of legendary Korean pro gamers. This time around, however, with the red Protoss probes, we have none other than Trap. His opponent in the opposite corner. For this first series back, we have a previous world champion of StarCraft 2, one of the very best Terrans on the planet. Of course, we're looking at none other than ByuN's main command center. Alrighty, so I can imagine it's been a little bit since Trap last picked up a mouse and keyboard, or at the very least since he last played this game competitively, and then, well, with all of the balance changes and all of these strange new maps, I've got a feeling this is going to be an uphill battle. Now, in case you're unfamiliar, Trap, I mean, he went off to the military, I think in late 2022. He just wrapped it up, according to his Wikipedia page, on the 24th of April. So, as of me recording this, he's had about 2 weeks or so as he once again has a chance to play the game, and this is the very first time he decided to sign up for a tournament. So I'm excited to see exactly where he is currently at, but I've got a feeling this is going to be a very, very tough one for him. So Trap, he's been playing since the very early days of StarCraft 2. As a matter of fact, I believe his first big tournament win was MLG Anaheim back in 2014, literally a decade ago. Since that, of course, he's won many events. For example, he ended up winning the GSL Super Tournaments in 2021, number 1 as well as number 2. He ended up winning, I think, a Super Tournament in 2020 as well, a TSL 7 in 2021. He's won the next StarCraft 2 Masters event. Long story short, Trap, he's very good at the game. He's got roughly $400,000 in tournament earnings alone, which is nothing to scoff at. And apparently, after completing his military service, he is once again back to show us what he is capable of. And you know what? This seems like a pretty good time to be a Protoss player. Yeah, across the board, Protoss right now is performing quite a bit better, honestly, than ever since Trap went to the military. There was a couple of years, quite a few years actually at this point, where Protoss has been underperforming, but yeah, I guess with this one, what are you doing here, ByuN? Are you trying to sneak the Reaper all the way around? You're literally within vision range right there of an Adept. Anyways, Trap, he's dodged the difficult years, I guess, for Protoss. It seems like right now, the sky is once again blue for Protosses around the globe. Zork players seem to be struggling a little bit more right now, which is always funny. There's always got to be one, apparently, right? Never Terran, though. It's always... it's always either Protoss or Zerg that seems to be struggling. Twilight Council opener right here for Trap. It's going to be a quick starport here as well on the other side of the map here for ByuN. Just opening up the both of them here with a quick in-base expansion. I can imagine that these new maps are really going to be very confusing if you haven't played the game in a little bit. Obviously, it depends, of course, on the branch of the military that you served in. So some of the pro gamers do get time off in the weekends, for example, to, well, for example, maybe get a couple of ladder games in, right? Even just holding a mouse and keyboard is probably quite effective. So we do have a quick sentry here as well, actually, from Trap. So already feeling quite comfortable. Usually, opening up with any sort of sentry build always sparks confidence in me, because apparently that means you are not afraid to spend this much gas into a unit that really doesn't have a lot of attacking power. It's going to be that quick blink upgrade, though, and that is actually a little funny to go for a sentry and then into blink. Not usually the upgrades you would be looking for right now if you're ByuN. ByuN is going to be sending that medevac across the map. It's going to be a cloaked Banshee on the back of this as well. So he is just going to try and pile on the pressure, and it'll be up to Trap to try and defend. Okay. Skill level, of course, is still going up. Trap trying to intercept this. Hoping that that medevac was going to pass by a little bit further on the left. Widow Mines, I guess, have been slightly nerfed. So they're going to be a bit easier to counter now. Yeah, so far, though, quite annoying here. Okay. It's going to be a lot of probes. Yeah, and this is looking like a bit of a disaster. 8 workers going down just like that. It's going to almost put Trap into an all-in. He's going to have to try his very best to see if he can deal damage on the other side of the map. Loses an additional probe as well right there to that Reaper. Robo Bay goes down, but that's honestly a little too much damage right there for a relatively small amount of commitment here from ByuN. And keep in mind, there's Cloak Banshees on the back of this too. At this point, we do not have any detection. There is an observer coming, but usually Protoss players like to rally that observer across the map. This one, however, is going to be staying at home, but well, the same cannot be said for those Stalkers. They are just about ready to go across the map. So this is very likely going to go from bad to worse right here for our Protoss. He's just about to be overwhelmed. Now, the siege tank does have to get in position. It should really siege up as well. But I'm a little bit afraid right here for this Banshee. There are 2 observers. One of them just popped out of the robo facility, so that's something. Already so much lost mining time, though. Yeah, so much lost mining time. In the meantime, apparently, we're gonna just drive down that ramp. ByuN not too concerned about those Stalkers waiting in the corner. Do we have a scan available? I think he sees the little blur right there as well. Yep. Honestly, perfect game right here for ByuN. Not really running into any issues whatsoever. Shutting his opponent down left, right, and center. And this is usually what seems to happen whenever players come back from the military. It takes a couple of weeks at the bare minimum. For ByuN himself, if I'm not mistaken, it took him like maybe even upwards of like a year before he really managed to get rid of all the rust. Now, of course, this is not an unplayable game right here for Trap. As a matter of fact, it's quite a difficult map for ByuN to really attack on. Especially since Trap did not go for a 3rd Nexus yet. He's thinking about it. He has been thinking about it, but he also knows that there's really no chance for him to just plot down that structure and, well, keep it alive. Honestly, as soon as ByuN realizes that the 3rd Nexus is not taken, he should just go home. Okay, well, that is the worst timing. I don't think you could have picked a worse timing to make that Nexus. Don't do it again. No, okay, well, luckily for you, that probe died. Yeah, that's something, I guess. So, Stimpack, combat shields, +1 infantry weapons, all of it is coming up. 3rd command center is like 90% of the way done. There's really no reason for ByuN to camp out on the other side of the map. All he really needs to do is just stay alive, and he should be able to outgrow his opponent quite comfortably. Now, you can tell that this is ByuN, because ByuN really wants to fight right now. Even though this is probably the worst moment for him to fight, because he's just about to hit a massive power spike. This is what ByuN likes to do. He's just always posturing and, well, at the very least, attempting to look scary. But I feel like if there was any opportunity for Protoss to fight, I mean, he can't really engage into siege-top tanks, I guess. But if there was any opportunity to have a straight-up engagement, yeah, this would be the one. Alrighty, Observer is gonna see this army. Now Stimpack is going to finish up. Combat shields already finished. You can tell that those Terran Marines suddenly found a little shield in their back pockets that gave them 10 additional hit points. Always nice. +1 infantry weapons also is going to make their guns a little bit more powerful. Alright, well, the one saving grace right here for Trap is that he does have the extended thermal lens upgrade finishing up. It's just so difficult for Protoss usually after playing honestly, that's the case in StarCraft 2 in general. If you play a sloppy early game or you just take more damage than you're supposed to, quote-unquote supposed to, it's so difficult to come back. Protoss doesn't really have the luxury of sieged-up tanks, for example, that can sometimes make life a little easier. Nice drop right here inside of the main base. We're gonna recall. Okay, a lucky recall as well, because those Colossi, or that one Colossus, could have popped up on the left side right here of that Nexus. So this is basically the best case scenario right here for Trap as far as that recall goes, but fight over at the 3rd, also not looking all too hot. Colossus, though, does stay alive for now. Oh my god, ByuN, you're going so deep. Well, I guess it's alright. Siege tank? Get him! There we go. GG. Really? Game number 2, we find ourselves on the map Dynasty. Kind of feel like we are watching some bullying take place right here. This map, I mean, it's pretty decent actually for Protoss against Terran. I think it's probably about a 50-50. It's just that it's a really difficult map to play. We have found, for example, that Protoss players like MaxPax have had a lot of success lately on this map by taking the gold base first on that side of the mineral wall, but it requires a lot of very delicate micro, and I don't think that's what you want to be attempting here as Trap when you're, well, fresh from the military. Some players, by the way, sometimes look better after they take a bit of a break from the game, as they, I guess, have some time to, well, reevaluate what they find important. I can imagine if you go to the military, you may also do a lot of growing up, right? You get to get a taste of life. I mean, I haven't gone to the military. I haven't grown up. I'm 31 years old. I play video games for a living. Thank you, by the way, for watching my videos and allowing me to do what I do. I appreciate that. I love what I do. Now, but I can imagine for a lot of players and for a lot of people in general, it is a bit of a, yeah, a couple years, maybe a year and a half or so of your life where you do do quite a bit of growing as a person. I can imagine it definitely does teach you, for example, quite a bit of discipline. Now, in my experience, all of the top tier pro gamers that you are well familiar with, they are very disciplined. The vast majority of pro gamers just practice from the comfort of their own home. So back in the day, we did have Korean esports teams that had like team houses and stuff, and that is something actually that Trap is well familiar with too. He used to be on one of those programming teams. I'm actually forgetting the name of it right now. Hold up, let me look this up. Anyways, that was basically like a house of a bunch of gamers where they had like... Oh, it was Seoul. Yeah, Incredible Miracle and Seoul. All right. Anyways, they would live together, they would play games together, and they would ultimately get better together, right? But these days, that's not really the case anymore. Most of the pro gamers, they just... Well, they're a little bit older now. They live in apartments. Many of the pros are actually married, for example, or they live together with girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever. And it requires a certain discipline to get up in the morning, to exercise, to play your games, and to get your practice in, right? It's very easy to just let that slip. So I don't think the discipline is really something that a lot of the Koreans need to learn when they are off in the military, but, you know, I don't think anybody's gonna be out there and claim that they are the most disciplined person in the world. I don't. Yeah, I don't believe that. If anybody would make that claim, I would be very, very cautious. Anyways, it's gonna be a Stargate opener this time around for Trap. Honestly, he didn't play poorly. Don't get me wrong. I actually think he played quite well in the previous game. It's just that the early game was quite unfortunate for him, right? He took too much damage from that very first drop from ByuN. And usually, it's just the nature of StarCraft 2. If you take more damage early on than you are really supposed to, it's incredibly difficult to stay alive. Sometimes Terrans can sort of do it. Sometimes Zergs can sort of do it, because Queens are really good. Obviously, siege tanks are really difficult to attack into as well. But Protoss doesn't really have a unit like that. So if you fall behind as Protoss, it can be quite difficult to really get back into the game. There are comeback potential, or there is comeback potential for Protoss later on, with, for example, Purification Novas, or if you manage to get like a Zealot flank down, or maybe a Warp in on your opponent's side of the map, something like that. But they hit a little bit later on into the game. So as Protoss, it is absolutely pivotal to play as clean an early game as possible. And that is exactly why Protoss is so build order dependent, and why it can feel like you have to play pretty much a perfect game just to be able to go toe-to-toe with both Zerg and Terran. Alrighty, we have a little bit of adept shenanigans here in the back. They're trying to dance with the SCVs and the Marines, but ultimately a siege tank is ruining the dance, yeah. It's a beautiful thing. Okay, they are going to be able to get an SCV. 2 SCVs. In the meantime, that Oracle has zipped around the left side of the map. Okay, 4 workers, not bad. This is also not really an early game where we're going to see ByuN move across the map with a medevac full of goodies. It's like Christmas morning every time ByuN plays. What's going to be inside of the medevac? Is it going to be a Widow Mine? Is it going to be a Cyclone? Is it going to be 2 Cyclones? Honestly, the sky is the limit when it comes to ByuN. This I kind of like, though. Yeah, I think there are enough... Okay, yeah, there's enough energy right here on those Oracles to kill all of this. Okay. That's a good bit of damage. You know what? Since this is one of those openers where Stimpec is the important upgrade right here for ByuN, those Terran Marines, if they get picked off before Stimpec is finished, it really is quite unfortunate. Not a lot of SCV kills, although not a terrible amount either. But most importantly here, Trap managed to keep all of his units alive. Does he have enough energy to clean up all of these units too? Yeah, I think he does. I think he does. Okay. Trap has just leveled up. It's gonna be charged as the very first upgrade. Lovely. Forge is coming up too, so +1 would be really nice. Just a little expensive. Kind of depends on how committed you expect the Terran player here to be. Combat shields is going to be quite late here though for Terran. +1 infantry weapons also not finishing up anytime soon. ByuN actually hit a bit of a supply block as well, so that is going to make life a little bit more complex as he's going to lose some potential income. Look at those Oracles, by the way, walking a Terran army. They have a little lead and they're just, yeah, trying to guide the Terran in the right direction. So, problem right here for Trap is that charge is not yet done. Oh, what about those siege tanks? We're gonna target the siege tanks down with the Oracles? Okay. Well, Proby is right there in the front as well, trying his very best. Battery overcharge is helping out quite a bit. One of the siege tanks here from the original 3 does remain. A new one just rolled up to the front lines. Nice repair right here by ByuN. Just barely keeps that siege tank alive for another shot or 2. Charge is finishing though. Bunkers are coming, but most of these Marines are very low. I think this is very manageable for Trap. If he gets like one more warp in of Zealots, those bunkers are going to be a nuisance. He really needs to make sure he attacks before the bunkers are done. Okay, charge is finished. Do we have enough? I think he does. I think he should. Just barely. Yeah. Low HP Marines, man. They get absolutely torn to bits right there by those Zealots. Okay. Lovely. Yeah, great stuff right here by Trap. You know what? Oh, immediate GG. I was gonna say there is no third command center available for ByuN here, so he is pretty much dead in the water. Okay. So that was like a complete 180. If you compare game number 1 and game number 2, that was a very different match. I can imagine that ByuN is once again thinking about playing something a little bit more aggressively here, because that will probably work out in his favor. Exciting times though, man. There's a lot of pro gamers returning to the game. Obviously a bunch of, well, promising RTS games on the horizon too. It's always difficult to predict what the future is gonna be like. I've had this feeling every year now for as long as I've been doing this thing full time, which it's been like maybe like what, 6-7 years? It's been a while actually at this point. Anyways, there's always that moment every year where I'm like, I have no idea what's gonna be happening next. Will I still have a job, right? I could probably pivot into something else, maybe? I don't know. Anyways, there's always that moment of doubt, but it seems like every year there are more tournaments coming. This time around, of course, with the EWC as well, with the biggest StarCraft 2 prize pool we've ever seen of $1 million. I mean, it seems like the future is not as bleak as everybody on the internet always makes it sound. Honestly, if I have to believe the internet, I'm not even joking. People have called StarCraft 2 a dead game since literally 2012. Maybe even 2011. I have heard for that long, ever since League of Legends popped up. Ever since it overtook StarCraft 2 in popularity, you know, I've heard that StarCraft 2 is a dead game, and yet here we are, after all these years. This is the first time, though, that we have a bunch of RTS games in development, too, that do seem pretty promising. Although, honestly, the thing is, you have to beat StarCraft, right? Like, there is no point in my mind to make an RTS game that is similar to StarCraft 2, but not better than StarCraft 2. Like, if the only advantage is that the developers of the game are still working at it, I don't really think it's that right? You have to make a game that's actually better. And StarCraft 2 is so damn good that it's hard to really beat. There's also, I guess, a small sliver of hope that maybe the Microsoft folks will decide to, since they are still working on, for example, Age of Empires 2, right? That they decide, you know what? Now that we own Blizzard, maybe we can slide a few people in the direction of the StarCraft 2 development team again, too. That'd be kind of sick. Anyways, very different opener here. Once again, I actually expected ByuN to play something more aggressive here. But he has decided, even though game number 1's aggression was very efficient, he has decided to open up quick triple command center. Now this can heavily backfire, because Trap has decided to go for a quick Twilight Council. Honestly, 4-gate Blink against quick triple CC should go really well right here for the Protoss player. I guess we'll find out. There's Blink. Immediately. It depends on, of course, how many gateways here Trap wants to produce. He doesn't really need to make that many. He can easily just make 2 gateways and then go into a 3rd nexus. 2 gateways into a 3rd nexus would spark a lot of confidence, I'm not gonna lie. The norm is to go about 3 gateways. You can go 2, 3, or 4 gateways usually. If you go 4 gates, you still usually expand behind it too. But if you go for only 2 gateways, it means that you have minimum unit production. And obviously, theoretically, right, if you, again, micro everything perfectly, it is defendable. It's just very difficult to do. Really only max specs. Maybe Hero likes to mix that in. I mean, obviously, there are a few Protoss players that are quite confident in their early game micro, but it does require quite a bit of confidence, for sure. Alrighty, once again a sentry. Good old sentry. I mean, the sentry didn't really work that well in the first game, I guess. There's the third nexus. So would you look at that? This is literally a single gateway done at this point, with a second one just finishing up. So we're doing a 2-gateway third nexus expand off of a sentry as well while opening Blink. This is one of those games where you're literally taking your third base off of like 3 units. You have to be very confident. And apparently what Trap has been scouting here, yeah, he did see the timing, I guess, of the second barracks. What Trap has been scouting here is allowing him to make that decision. It's a bold move, but I think it should be okay. It should be alright. Okay. So we are setting ourselves up for a pretty big macro game. Problem here for ByuN, of course, is that he won't have any sort of medevac production here. He's probably going to go for a starport and a reactor in a moment, but it's going to be a little bit until he really is ready to go out onto the map and fight. Now, again, this is ByuN. He has units. He's going to have a medevac eventually, so I can imagine we will see him flying around the map before too long. But this is a pretty passive opener, of course, for ByuN. He will likely be trying to secure that low ground expansion here in a moment. This is now something that Trap will fully scout. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, we've got an Immortal coming up, together with Charge. Okay. So, in ByuN's mind, his best play is not to play aggressive in the early game, but it is to play a big macro game against Trap. You know what? I think the meta has shifted quite a bit over the last year and a half or so since Trap has been gone. Terrans do tend to play the late game a little bit differently now, so let's see. Let's see exactly what ends up going down here between these two, because apparently Trap is not afraid. I was actually thinking, usually whenever players come back from the military, they go for pretty cheesy builds. They go for timing attacks and try to go for quick, haha, got you now type of strategies. But apparently not Trap here. Honestly, Trap has been the one who wants to play a macro game for the most part. Yeah, happy to play quick expansions and all the rest of it. Actually kind of cool. He must have tried timing attacks. He must have tried 2 base all-ins. But apparently he hasn't found too much success with it. Which is fair enough. Alright, well now medevacs are available. Third command center, landed on the low ground. Stimpack is finished, of course. Combat shields is done. +1 infantry weapons is finished too. I think ByuN is indeed ready to go for a bit of a move out. This is right, though, before Protoss is going to be able to hit a big unit production improvement, too. So Storm is coming. Gateways are going to finish within the next half minute or so, but this is actually a moment in a game where Trap is quite vulnerable. He needs to be in the right position at the right time. Where are all those stalkers? Okay, they're headed in the right direction. Perfect movement right here by Trap! Until he decided to turn back around. Push over here at the front as well, though, and that's exactly why he decided to turn those units around. Storm is not yet finished. He needs that upgrade ASAP. How many Templars do we have? There's only the one over at the third. Reinforcing units, though, will pop out of those production structures in the main base. Fight over here at the front. Well managed as well by Trap. Perfect set of force fields. Slows down the advancement right there of the Terran troops. Now additional Templar are coming. Psionic Storm is done. The gateways, they have finished. Okay, we're gonna go double forts. Look at this. Trap playing confident StarCraft. There's a lot of things that can go horribly wrong here. Obviously, ByuN only really needs one of those things to go terribly wrong, because he will capitalize on mistakes immediately. I like this. I like this here for Trap, actually, quite a bit. This is a scary section in the game, though. He needs to stay alive. Those storms are going to have to be decent, at least. Okay. I don't know if ByuN realizes he's playing against Psionic Storm at this point. Okay, well, here's the Prism. It's gonna spoil the surprise. Oh, Storm, hello? He did not quite click the unit fast enough there. Not perfect control right there overall, if I'm being honest with you. I think we could have picked up, for example, that Archon too. Just in general, that micro was a bit spotty, but it's good enough. It's good enough. The Terran player gets pushed back for now. Fourth Command Center starts up. Ghost Academy is already done. They are starting to hit the battlefield too. Drop into the main base. Okay. Is gonna be deflected. It's time for a fourth base. Yep. Nexus coming up right now for Trap. Always a bit of a sketchy one, of course, because you always plant it down without really knowing exactly where the Terran army is located, but I think he's doing a good job here. Supply count pretty much even. Worker count pretty much even. Army count pretty much equal as well. We have a Robo Bay coming up, second Robo facility. All right. Now this is where the game does become a bit tricky though. Because this is headed into the late game direction. And in the late game, there is that weird moment where, for example, Protosses like to transition sort of towards Tempest. But that transition to Tempest feels pretty terrible. Do you really want to rely though on mostly a bunch of Stalkers to try and deal with Mass Liberator? Obviously Liberators did get nerfed in the most recent patch. And it's always, it's delicate. It's very... Sorry, what? What did we just kill? I think he just killed one of his own units, didn't he? Anyways, it's always difficult to make those calls. Okay, apparently we killed one of our own Zealots. Don't know why, but apparently... Ah, I think we wanted to make another Colossus, maybe. Maybe the pylon just finished up at the correct moment, though. Anyways. There's a lot of those decisions that you have to make, and it's difficult to transition from a mid-game army to a late-game army in StarCraft 2 in general. 2-2 starts up right now, though, for ByuN. We're still a little bit away from that. But the second starport is coming. Large Terran movement, though. It's a lot of stuff. Just a lot of stuff. Just a lot of things. Zealots ready to create a distraction. Obviously, that prism at the bottom of the map ended up going down, which is something that ByuN will certainly be aware of. Usually, this isn't the point in the game where you really want to occupy a lot of robo facility time into something that isn't going to help you out that much. Into, for example, a prism, right? You really want to be producing units, although currently we're not producing out of the robo facilities at all. Okay, Zealot distraction here at the bottom of the map. It does snipe a couple of SCVs. Yeah, 8 of them go down. Storm over here slowing down the advancement of the Terran army. Trap is not all army hotkeying, ByuN. He's controlling his units properly. Zealots are being split off from the pack to try and mitigate some of that splash damage. Okay. Well done right here by Trap. That was overconfidence right there from ByuN. A bit of a skill check from the Terran. And that did not work out for him at all. This is actually a good opportunity right here for Trap because, oh, don't overwalk right now with the Colossi. Yeah, extended thermal lens is a little late. Big EMPs also do connect on that army. There are still a bunch of Templar, though, coming from the back. Not a perfect fight, again, for Trap. But a good enough one. If we have, like, one more good storm on this Terran army, a lot of it is going to melt. Yeah, and ByuN knows it. He does still have a bunch of ghosts in the mix as well, though. Actually, 12 ghosts in total. That EMP not quite in time. Ghost Academy goes down. +2/+2, just about to finish here for the Terran. Oh my god, Trap is actually staying here for so long. Now the EMP connected with the entire Terran, or the entire Protoss ball, rather. That means that there's no more splash damage available. Honestly, though, the straight-up firepower of all of those units, Immortals in the back just plowing through as many of those Marauders as they can. I think this is an overextension by Trap and a pretty heavy one, but I've been thinking that for the last half minute, and he's been making it work. Look at the pickup control. Oh, shit. Okay. We're doing some of that now. Still an overextension. But he's actually pushing back this army. Wow. I think Trap knows it. I think Trap knows he's overstaying his welcome. But he just wanted to show off a little bit, you know? I think those are the moments that you kind of... It takes a couple hundred games to get those decisions to be made at the perfect time again. Okay, so there is the Dark Shrine coming up. We have the Gravitic Drive. That's the Prism speed improvement. +3/+3 coming up here as well for the Protoss. Another Nexus is building up north. Fair enough. ByuN, though, did secure that 4th command center, and even though he did lose a lot of SCVs during all of that, 33 in total actually in this game, he is going to be able to get a good economy here. Easy peasy. ByuN is going to be able to start up his own 3/3 research as well in just a bit. I'm expecting the +3 armor here. Should really start up. Okay. Such a dangerous move, though. When the entire... When all of those High Templar got EMP'd, when the Archons got reduced to basically no shields, I was actually thinking ByuN was going to be able to get the jump on that army and just destroy it, but those reinforcing units just barely coming in clutch. Couple zealots inside of the main base being annoying. Speedy boy War Prism. It's got his Formula 1 engine. It's really strong. Yeah. It's got wings. Literal wings. It's really quick, man. Especially in the corners. Okay. You know what? I'm actually really liking this game right now for Trap. I don't think it's one where he's like at a dominating advantage or anything, but I've got very little to complain about. He's effectively creating almost like ooh, big storms over here. Vikings up in the air. Okay. I think he's a little over-eager with a lot of these fights. Right now, it's gonna fall flat on its face. Yeah, and this is what I was concerned for earlier. We do, in the meantime, have a bunch of zealots trying to distract whatever they can, but that is an overextension for sure. Other than those fights, with Trap maybe being a little over-eager, I really like what he's doing. So, what I was trying to say is, ByuN effectively here just reduced to 4 base economy. Yeah, exactly. So, rather than going that mass command center style, or adding on just a 5th command center, ByuN is going to be flying his old main base. This is the command center he started the game off with. He's going to be flying that one over towards the 3rd, or the 3 o'clock position right over here as a 5th base. Vikings now on the ground, joining in the fray as well. Good EMP right there on the Templar. That one, however, not getting a whole lot of its energy removed. Purification Novas being activated too. Couple Marauders there do make flips. I mean, this is still 85 probes. 85 probe economy, not bad. Base up north, fully saturated. A new Nexus here is going to finish up within the next minute. +3 finishes up here for ByuN, but he isn't really in a position where he can easily get work in. Apparently these Templar, they must have been inside of a War Prism. They end up getting removed. Recalled all the way back home, at least one of them. Now we have some invisible men wandering around the battlefield as well, creating more distractions, and obviously the more Dark Templar are sprinkled around the map, the more difficult it becomes right here as well for ByuN to try and deal with, well, for example, Purification Novas. We see Purification Novas hit Terran players in the face all the time when they're trying to deal with those Dark Templar, because the DTs deal so much damage. Good crisis management so far, though, here by ByuN, dealing with all of those cloak units wonderfully. He is being dragged all the way back to the natural expansion. That EMP missed. Since he only has a couple of orbital commands, he doesn't actually have scans available. And that means, actually, how much energy do those ghosts have? We only have 3 ghosts. There's actually not that many ghosts. The Ghost Academy was remade, but it did halt the production right there for ByuN for quite a bit. Okay, you know what? That was actually a really good sequence of events. The fact that we only had a couple of command centers, 3 orbitals in total, no easy way to review anything right there for ByuN. Since obviously Terrans never make Ravens, right? As I've discussed many a time. These DTs are actually amazing. Every scan here is good enough for Trap. I don't think he minds. Now the natural expansion is going to be making a move for that exact same base. I think Trap is actually doing it. Hold up right now. Trap's actually leading this game. Dude, if he can actually win a best-of-3 series against ByuN within literally, like, what, 2 weeks of coming back to the military, or coming back from the military, rather? Sorry, Jimmy. Jeez, that was brutal. Anyways. Big EMPs once again. I just don't think the army here is big enough, though, for ByuN to really overwhelm this. Strategically, Trap is actually playing this really well. I don't think his unit control is up to his previous level. But he is out-strategizing ByuN, who is honestly one of the best strategists in the entire game. Yeah, I think he's a little over-eager in these fights. I think he should not be here. I mean, he can give it a try, but not with the Zealots leading the charge like that, because they take so much splash damage. Ultimately, though, is there not just way too much Protoss? Yeah, now with that other Colossus coming in from the left, another little Stormy boy showing up as well, the Immortals still just shooting away. Colossus in the back, softening up a lot of these units. I think Trap has just done it. What in the world? Trap has got 3 Colossi, and he's making more. He's overeager. He's definitely overeager. But you know what? I can't blame the man. I'm fairly sure he went into this week's ESO Open Cup with the lowest expectations. And he may just be able to take down one of the world's best. Look at the minimap. There is so much Protoss. Yeah, maybe the fights have been a little overeager, but if you look at the total resources lost, it's honestly not bad for Trap. Imagine if he did back off in a couple of those fights slightly earlier. I think it would have been... yeah. Maybe a bit of a misread as well on my end, though, where I'm looking at those fights and I'm like, eh, maybe you should back off, but... Trap staying a little longer than most of the top tier Protosses would. Making it work, getting quite a bit of value. That natural expansion, by the way, not achieving too much. ByuN is broke. He doesn't really have an option here. He can't fight this. There's just not enough stuff. His economy is not good enough. And even though Trap is more than happy to fight ByuN in the middle of the map, even though he really doesn't need to, he manages to obtain the victory. 2-1. Oh yeah, that is not the result I expected. You love to see it.